Hello, this is Darice at Moonlife Astro. Welcome to the channel if you're new, and welcome back if you are returning. I do appreciate it. Today, I want to do a special video on the upcoming Chiron retrograde. I just want to go do a bit of a deeper dive into that. I touched on it last week briefly in the weekly astrology video, but I feel like this will be a pretty good one for people, or, well, I don't know if good is the word, but let's say impactful. And with that, I'm just going to get into it. Chiron is often called the wounded healer. It will station retrograde July 30th, 2025, and it will stay retrograde until January 2nd, 2026. So basically till the end of this year. And Chiron goes retrograde every year. And because it's in Aries, I feel like it's really urging us to look at our identity, our self-leadership, how to be a courageous leader, how to take initiative. I feel like a lot of the astrology for all of 2025 has really been about reinventing or upgrading our identities. And my intuition is that this Chiron retrograde will be a key and pivotal piece of that process. My intention is that by the end of this video, you'll understand what this retrograde will mean for you, or your personal identity, and also how it can help you upgrade your business vision, and then also give you some practical steps on how to work with this energy. Uh, Now, I wanted to get into the myth of Chiron first before I talk a little bit about the actual retrograde itself. In Greek mythology, Chiron was no ordinary centaur. He wasn't wild and unruly like most of them. He was a kind, wise, and master healer and teacher to many heroes, including Achilles. Yes, Achilles and Hercules. His story centers on a wound that could never fully heal, a poison arrow that caused great suffering. And yet, from this unhealable wound, he developed incredible compassion and deep healing wisdom. And so, basically, the story of Chiron is saying that this is a symbol of how our deepest pain can become the source of our greatest gifts. Or what I like to think of is what I used to hear growing up in the church is that you have to have the test before you have the testimony. I feel like Chiron in our natal birth chart is speaking to that very phenomenon. It is a wound that you continue to work with during your entire life, but as you learn to heal from it, move through it, like maybe it's a fear of abandonment, the more you meet that over and over again and discover a new level or layer about yourself, your life becomes richer and you learn how to trust more. You learn how to have more intimacy. You learn how to have um, deeper discernment with who you can trust and who you can't trust. That's just one example of how it could potentially work for you. Since we all have now Chiron in Aries, and it's been in Aries since 2018, you could look at the areas of your life that focused around self-worth, leadership, independence, and identity. Think back to how your identity has changed since 2018 and how that's reflected in your business. Maybe you decided to start a business or become a solopreneur since 2018. And maybe you're still trying to decide what you want to even have your business be in. What's nice about retrograde energy, it gives us that opportunity, that space. I feel like it's the universe supporting us doing that inner work or that inner shadow work. So something to sit with during this particular Chiron retrograde, you can ask yourself, since it is in Aries, who am I now? What do I want to be? And I feel like that's really important, especially because this is happening against the backdrop of Jupiter in Cancer and also Uranus moving into Gemini and also even Pluto being in Aquarius. I feel like all of these transits together, this is why it's really asking us to say, who do I want to be? How do I want to show up in the world? And a really core piece of that is our identity, how we see ourselves. Potentially, how does this show up for you in business and in your life? Are you during this retrograde? You may be triggered by some old insecurities around being visible. Is it safe to be visible? Am I willing to see myself as a leader, as a solopreneur, as a creative visionary? And then as a result of that, what are the wounds I have around pricing, charging for my services, saying I'm worth that, if I do this service in exchange for, a certain amount. And also, it's going to be an invitation to really look at where your boundaries are not as developed as they need to be, both with your clients and even maybe with people in your personal life, about creating space and time for living your vision. Um, why does this matter for solopreneurs? Your identity and your business are linked. Our businesses are an extension of ourselves, how we see ourselves. And so when your identity evolves, does your business evolve, or how does your business evolve? There may be a sense of impatience throughout this retrograde. You may have the urge to change your life, your brand, even your main offers. And I invite you to give yourself permission to do that, to question it, to sit with it. And even if it's not something that you can change overnight, it may take a few months. You may not even be able to implement any of those changes until 2026. I think it's always okay to ask the question, to give yourself permission to grow. It's interesting. I was listening to an interview. I haven't finished it, with Stacey London from the TV show What Not to Wear, which I didn't actually watch when it was on in real time very often. I'd seen maybe a couple of episodes. But this past summer, I've been rewatching a lot of the old episodes. And then I came across an interview with her on YouTube where apparently she started a business around helping women move through menopause. And she talked about how difficult that was for people to see her in a new lane. Everyone wanted her to only talk about style. And I was really inspired by that she gave herself permission to change her career completely, that she decided that she didn't have to be known just for style. She was going through menopause. She found some things that helped her, and she wanted to share that with other women. And I think that's incredibly brave to do that, to have an entire career in one area and then completely change and say, no, here's what I want to do now. Here's what I want to focus on now. So Chiron in retrograde, could spark something like that in some of you. And like I said, even if it's not something that you can roll out right away, it's always okay to at least ask yourself the question, to give yourself permission to at least question it, to think about it. Because as a result of that, it gives you the opportunity to show up more authentically, even if it scares you. And this will also encourage you to let go of any perfectionism or outdated ideas you have about how you need to be worthy or how you earn your worth. Or another way to look at it, it's simply another personal power upgrade. This is about owning your own expertise and the story as fuel for your business. I also want to go through some of the key astrology dates during this transit. Like I said, it retrogrades July 30th. And so around that time, or even the later part of this week, as a result, you may experience some emotional sensitivity, but you might also experience some clarity of downloads. In the middle of the retrograde, in mid-October, Chiron will have an opposition to the sun. So that might bring up some opportunities for breakthrough moments, awareness of patterns. I believe that's October 17th, that date. And then it will station direct January 2nd, 2026. And at that time, you could look at what did you integrated as a result of this retrograde, and what do you want to move forward through with in more confidence. And like I said earlier, it is happening against the backdrop of Jupiter in Cancer, where when Jupiter is in Cancer, it can be helping us heal our relationships with our family and also our family roles and our family dynamics. And this might be triggered, like if that's your wound, this Chiron retrograde could be highlighting that for you, and it could be showing you where old unhealthy family dynamics are showing up in your business and with your customers or your clients or the people you serve. It's also happening against the backdrop in Saturn in Aries, which is asking us to have our structure meet our ability to assert ourselves, to stand up for ourselves. And so this retrograde could highlight where there's some weaknesses in those areas and be able to do that. Excuse me. Like I said, it's humid. I'm recording this in July on the East Coast, and it's very hot, but it's all good. I'm going to keep going. In a nutshell, I do feel like this retrograde is going to help us look at how we upgrade our relationship to power. And it could also be interesting to see how this plays out on the world stage as well. Now, here's some suggestions on how to potentially work with this energy, during these next few months. Some reflection prompts, and I'll actually put this in the comments below. Where am I still hiding my true identity behind a mask or life that doesn't fit anymore? What story about power and leadership am I ready to release? What part of my business or life feels out of alignment with who I'm becoming? What truth feels scary but necessary to claim? Some potential practical actions you could take. You could audit your brand and offers. Are they in alignment with who you are, who you're becoming? A potential embodiment practice, maybe daily journaling or meditation around self trust and visibility. You could also do boundary check ins. Where do you need stronger or clearer boundaries to protect your energy? And you could also revisit old wounds, continue to do that shadow work that I've been encouraging people to do throughout the whole year. Work with your healers, your therapists, your counselors, your energy workers. And especially if any past business failures get triggered during this time, definitely work with those people to help you move through that shadow work. A potential ritual idea, you could create a power identity altar. Maybe include a symbol of your highest self. What would that look like for you? It might be an affirmation, it might be a talisman, it might just be a simple photo. And then once a week, you just light a candle to symbolize how you are stepping into your authentic power. And then we can look at the long-term vision. This retrograde is preparation about, like I was saying earlier, who do we want to be as we move through these bigger transits that are coming up? Again, we have Pluto in Aquarius for the next 19 years, which is upending structures in society and probably on an individual level for you as well. Who are the person that you want to become? What kind of foundation do you want to have for your personal life and your business life? Chiron in retrograde is an opportunity to have energetic support around those types of questions. This is soul level branding. How do you want that to show up in your work, your business, your vision, your purpose? Energetic alignment. Trust that you're healing your identity wounds or working towards healing them can help expand your capacity to lead, sell, and be of service. And then a closing reflection. What is one small action you can take this week to embody your true power? In a nutshell, I just want to go over this really quickly. Feel free to like the video if you got some value out of it. If you have questions, feel free to comment as well. If you'd like me to expand on anything in the future, please put that below as well. In a nutshell, I just wanted to encourage you to use this time with Chiron in retrograde as an opportunity to rise up to a new level of your highest self and your most empowered and embodied self. And how do you want that identity to be reflected in your business, in your personal life, and how you show up for yourself and for others? Yeah, that's basically all I had to say. I was trying to see if there was something else that wanted to come through. A potential affirmation you could also take on as well is I am allowed to grow beyond who I was. And with that, thank you for your time, your attention. I do appreciate everyone who does return. Welcome again if you're new. Feel free to comment down below any questions that you may have or anything that resonated for you. Wishing you much love, peace, and joy. Easefully yours, Darius.